Hello, my name is Janie Capri, and I believe in experiencing life like you're living in a novel. So come with me
on my first ever solo trip to Portland. It was a choice, but was it worth the risk? Let me tell you all about it. If you'd like some inspiration for how to live your life like the main character, stick around by subscribing.
Now let's get into the video.
I had the biggest taste for Wanderlust this year, and because of that, I traveled to a lot of places that all prepared me for this trip. I've never really traveled anywhere by myself, and the thought of it terrified me. But probably for the same reason I fall asleep listening to crime podcasts is the same reason I was so drawn to putting myself in an uncomfortable, possibly dangerous situation. I just wanted to experience what it was like to be solely reliant on myself and to experience something new. Mostly I just wanted to prove that I could do it, but I do wish I had picked a safer destination to prove my point, because I did not realize just how scary Portland, Oregon can be. I did it. I planned the itinerary, I booked the flights, and I made a very in-depth in case I go missing file that I sent to each of my friends. I can often be overly anxious, but this time I think it paid off. It was that file, along with constant scheduled check-ins with my friends, that I informed them if I missed, they were to contact the police right away. And that kept me feeling somewhat safe on this trip. My first impression of the city was how easy the public transportation was to navigate. I rely on a car back in Utah, and I really didn't want to rent one for the majority of the trip if I didn't have to. And I was delighted that within the city itself, it was really easy to use. Once I arrived in the vicinity of my accommodation, I convinced myself I had done a good job picking the location as I walked from the train station down to Old Town until I actually turned onto the street where my lovely hotel was located on.
And I am initially feeling nervous.
And I felt myself physically stop in my tracks when I saw a very scary group of men standing on the street, trash and tents littered around them. I was raised not to judge others, except when necessary for safety, and the vibes I got that if I wanted to make it home from this trip, I'd have to limit the amount of times I had to arrive or leave my hotel any given day. I quickly dropped off my bags at the hotel and went to find the first restaurant that I had found when doing my initial research. It was a sushi restaurant, which I was very excited to try out.
Instead of getting your toes wet, it feels like I'm jumping into ice cold water. So I checked in with my hotel. I'm on my way to get some sushi. My initial impressions of the city is that it is pretty green and there's a lot of pine trees, which I expected, but I don't know, it's just nice seeing it in person. And I really like the public transit. At least overall, it seems pretty connected and I feel generally close to everything and it's easy to work.
I took a train to another part of town that was more in the category of suburbia than downtown, and once I sat down at the restaurant, I was very pleased with my first official food introduction to the city.
I need to hype myself up. I'm a little nervous. It's so silly and weird, and I'm excited to be here. And maybe I'll wait until I get back to my hotel room to give a full debrief. But walking to the hotel, I definitely got nervous waiting to catch public transit to get to this restaurant. I was like, oh, there's people that... Anyways, do more of a debrief when we get back to the hotel.
After that, I got access to my hotel room. So I went to check it out. It was clean, quiet, and it had a ton of storage for baggage, and it had its own ensuite bathroom. I cannot express how happy I was in this hotel. It was affordable, the attendants and the hosts were incredibly kind and easy to communicate with, plus my hotel room was in pristine condition, but the location was definitely sketchy. Alright, so I made it to the hotel room. I love the hotel.
I think it is a super nice building. It's really cool with its old building charm. There's like a lot of older details that just fit the vibe of the building. There's like a coffee shop that's downstairs and it just like has the coolest like paint and wallpaper, and the people are so nice. And then the room itself, like it's small, but like I'm the only one that's staying here, so that's totally great. And then like huge windows, which are lovely. Love the natural light. Which just kind of helps to make it feel a little bit bigger when it is a pretty small space. So I'm very happy with my choice in that aspect. I am feeling nervous about the neighborhood though. Being actually in this building feels very safe and secure. Like you have room keys, but even then you have to be buzzed in to even get in the building in the first place, which is really nice because it was interesting. I got off the plane, got on tracks, I don't know what they call them here, the rails way, and I was just kind of happy with how it was going overall because everything felt easy to navigate and nice, and people just kind of kept to themselves or were friendly. And then I got to what I believe is called Old Town, and when I first got off the tracks it was like, wow, this is like super cool. It's got a bunch of old buildings and it just looks very cool. I love old buildings and I love the architecture when it comes to those. And then literally I got to the street that my hotel was on and it was like scary.
I hardly had time to sit down and really take everything in before I had to get moving again and start the ghost tour.
Time to go see some ghosts.
The Shanghai Tunnels are a network underneath Portland that connect to the river for easy access for shipping. They aren't in use anymore, but when they were, there was a lot of illegal and nefarious activities that were going on down there. Many of the stories were incredibly heartbreaking, and it would make sense why they would be haunted. Our tour guide was incredibly insightful and entertaining, and she was a great storyteller. She had a lot of people on the tour looking over their shoulders, eyes peeled for any sort of spooky activity. One woman asked me if I had seen or smelled anything, and I said no, but in turn asked her if she saw something, and she said that she had smelled a strong aroma of florals whisk past her. Our tour guide had told us of a ghost who you could tell was nearby by the smell of the flowers. So the woman wondered if I had noticed the same thing. I had my spidey senses out in case I did notice something, but I'm not a believer in ghosts.
Well, that was absolutely delightful. I don't know if that's something you would necessarily want to say after a ghost tour, but it was great. I chatted with a nice family from Albuquerque. The mom of the group specifically, she was just very nice and very friendly, and I appreciated it because I was feeling a little bit nervous. The tour was great. I don't know if I necessarily believe in ghosts now. I don't really feel like I experienced anything in particular, but some of the stories they told were pretty scary, and then just the history of the place was just sad. I'm thinking my plan from here, I'm gonna leave in like 40-ish minutes and go to a nearby cemetery, and then there is a restaurant that I have reservations at just a couple blocks away from there.
But that's not to say I don't love spooky things, which is obvious since right after the Shanghai Tunnels, I went straight to the cemetery.
Oh, this is so cool. It's got so many cool old tombstones and it's just so old.
I absolutely adore looking at old gravestones and seeing what sorts of designs were engraved on them. Seeing just how old the cemetery was incredible. My favorite was seeing the sign at the perimeter of the cemetery instructing all visitors to wipe their feet to keep ghosts from hitchhiking.
That was an absolutely wonderful experience. It was a really nice restaurant and the vibes were just immaculate. The servers were great, everyone was super friendly, and the food was great.
I decided that the best way to really get to know Portland was by aerial view, and these views did not disappoint. I would highly recommend going on the tram if you are ever in Portland. Next, I stopped at a bookstore, but not just any bookstore. I went to Powell's City of Books, and they were not kidding when they called it a city. It takes up an entire city block with 4 stories, and each room is color-coded and dedicated to different types of books. I spent a good couple of hours here browsing, and I ended up purchasing a mystery novel.
Well, that was absolutely delightful. It was so big. I think I knew that when I initially booked it, but had forgotten. And then going in, I'm like, there's just so many books. And I got a book that I think I'm really excited about. I've been wanting to do like a mystery thriller for a while, so I'm just gonna go drop this off and then head over to the garden.
From there, I ventured across the street from my hotel to the Lanchu Chinese Garden. I especially enjoyed the free audio tour that came with it. I got lost in the storytelling and how well thought out every detail was. The audio tour pointed out so many cultural details in the architecture that I never would have noticed otherwise. I also decided to attend their tea house where you could buy drinks and little treats. After that, I grabbed a quick lunch to the observatory and then headed to the Prologue mansion. It was quite a trek across town by bus, plus it was just generally a ways out of town, and soon the city ambiance turned into green forest. When it came to my stop at the bottom of a big hill, a couple got off first, I followed, and another girl was behind me. There really wasn't much this far out of the city besides some houses, so I again stepped out of my comfort zone and took a risk by making the assumption that this girl was probably headed to the same place I was. I asked if we could walk together, and just like that, I made my first friend.
Hey, made a friend.
No, I made a friend.
We traded off chatting and getting to know one another and comfortable silence while we read about the history of the mansion. Last, it was time to use the remaining daylight to souvenir shop and grab a quick dinner before heading back to the hotel. And I have made it back to the hotel. I'm all tucked in for the evening. Today was great. I very much enjoyed the day. I felt like I got to do a lot of things, go to a lot of places. I think the best part of the day was definitely going to the mansion and meeting my friend. I feel like that's one of the cool things that I've seen online about people who solo travel. You make friends and connections and just like random places that you visit. And so it was very nice to meet her and not be alone for once on my little solo trip, which I know is kind of the whole point, but it's just nice to make a friend. I'm definitely feeling like I can breathe easy, have a little bit of a sigh of relief, knowing that tonight's gonna be my last night in this hotel, in this area, because even though actually exploring the city is really nice, in reality, I do not feel safe in this neighborhood. Like, I feel anxious anytime I feel like I have the need to come back here to drop something off or anything, because I just am having unwanted interactions and attention from people that make me feel very nervous. There was one point after I had bought my book and I was walking back to the hotel that there were these 2 guys that were walking up behind me and they were saying, ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. And I just like ignored them and I kept walking. In my head, I'm like, okay, even if they're trying to do something nice, like I dropped something and they're like trying to give it back, I don't really care. I don't want to interact with anybody. I don't feel safe. And so I kept walking, and then there was like another person just like along the sidewalk and was like, oh, ma'am, like, you know, those people are trying to talk to you. And at that point I did turn around and they were like trying to like play off like a hero. Ma'am, you're going into a really sketchy area. Like, here, let us help you. And I'm like, no. Like, I didn't actually say anything to them. I just turned back around and kept walking and ignored them. So that did not feel good. Like, overall, any of the interactions I've had are just people trying to compliment me, trying to get my attention in some way, and it just does not give off good vibes. Like, it's just that hit in your stomach that something's wrong and you should not be interacting. So that's just kind of what I did throughout the trip. There was one other time where a man was asking me for help and he was acting really frantic, and I did not feel, again, did not feel safe to stop and talk and interact with him. So I just was like, sorry, kind of in a rush. I kept on walking. And then there was another guy who I didn't really seem like as sketchy of a character. He was asking if there was like a certain type of store nearby. I guess he thought I was like a local or something, that I knew what I was doing, and I didn't. And so I was just like, nope, sorry, can't help you. I don't even know why I'm like talking about these like minor interactions. Like there wasn't anything like super big or uncomfortable besides like the two guys that were kind of following me for a bit. But again, also had like some fairly like neutral and decent interactions as well, like making the friend. It was also kind of nice just kind of sitting on the bus and seeing like the little acts of kindness that people would do, making sure people had a place to sit, or like if they needed help with something, like they would help them out when they were on the bus. I thought that was really sweet. Or there was like a group of older ladies my first day that mistook me for a local and were asking me for directions somewhere. And there was another lady, when I told them, I was like, hey, this is my first day here too, I don't know if I can be of much help. There was like another lady at the same bus stop who went out of her way to help them out. It's interesting because where I live, I usually don't interact with people on the day-to-day unless I choose to interact with them. Like there aren't just like happenstance situations. So that's kind of been an interesting experience taking public transit and just interacting with people more. I'm really proud of myself, and I feel like I've gained a lot of confidence being able to navigate a big city, stay safe, and I'm ready for the second leg of my trip. I'll be going into the woods tomorrow and then along the beach. I am all packed up and ready to go. I'm just gonna be heading out, heading to the airport, picking up a rental car, and then I'm off to the woods. Made it to the rental car. I've been the one to rent cars, but never actually been the one to drive them. It's always been Chase or my mom, and so this is the first time. So I kind of messed up and accidentally bought the wrong permit for the Multnomah Falls, but I can see it from the parking lot, so that's pretty cool. Oregon is so green.
I'm not going to lie. My last morning in Portland, I was so excited to leave and get out of the city, and my mini road trip began. I planned to hit some nature landmarks along the way. I made a mistake not getting a pass to see the Multnomah Falls, but I backtracked a little bit and found another stunning waterfall and hike.
And I'm blasting the Twilight soundtrack because it just fits the vibe. I'm heading 30 minutes east to go to a restaurant called the Bridgeside. I think it'll be nice to eat some lunch and then keep on traveling.
I was craving sweet potato fries, and gratefully they had them. Then I headed to the Trillium Lake Loop, which offered the most scenic views of Mount Hood.
So now I am here at Trillium Lake. There's supposed to be just like a flat scenic walk around of the lake. I don't know if I'll do the whole thing. I kind of want to get to the coast before my dinner reservations tonight at 7. It's like a 3-hour drive from here.
It was supposed to be a loop anyway, but as I was about 2/3 of the way done, there was a closure with some sort of construction to or along the trail, and I had to turn around. So the trail ended up taking longer than expected, but it was beautiful all the same. Not long after, I was back on the road, headed to my dinner reservation at the Wayfarer.
So I made it to the hotel and I got all checked in just in time for me to then change all my clothes so that way I could go to my dinner reservations, which I need to go to in like 5 minutes. So I'm very proud of myself for the quick turnaround.
It was right off of Cannon Beach, which I found out was a very popular destination. So I'm glad I had a reservation. Otherwise, the wait would have been an eternity. I completely understood why this was such a crowded location.
Nothing would have prepared me for the stunning place I would have found myself at.
This is absolutely stunning. It's like a little bit chilly, but it's so pretty. And just like sitting in the restaurant with probably like the best meal that I've had on this whole trip. I'm just, wow.
Especially at sunset. There were many visitors and photographers, along with myself attempting to capture the beauty of this beach, and it was the perfect end to a perfect day.
What a delightful afternoon. I wasn't expecting it to be like that beautiful, and it was amazing. I meant to get back here before it got too dark, so then like I could film with like natural light and stuff, but that didn't happen. That's okay. So yeah, I'll give you a little room tour. I really like the room with all the extra lamps. It just makes everything cozy, and then the decorations are very cutesy and coastal. It's also really nice to have a lot of the anemones. Super tired. I just went to a nearby little market grocery store to get some stuff for breakfast tomorrow to tie me over until I get over to the airport. But I think overall from this trip, initially planning it, I think booking in where I did in Portland was very naive of me, because in my head I had done research and I had figured that it was probably fine. Any city is going to have like a population of somewhat like sketchy people. At least in the major city where I live, people just don't really bother you. Not that, and it was very scary in Portland. Overall in the city, I love the activities that I did and I love using the public transportation. But then today, having a car and like driving out into the woods and now like along the coastline, I just felt so much more relaxed and at peace. And even though there weren't as many things to do, the awe of just like being able to see some of the cool like naturey things was just amazing. Overall from this trip, learn from my mistakes. Do not be naive like me, because like I feel like I'm a very anxious person. I'm a planner, and I still was like, oh, it'll probably be fine. Like I just really didn't have an understanding of how bad Portland could get and how dangerous it could be. And I feel like that was just my biggest mistake, is just having a combination of being naive and not doing research thoroughly enough. But then the biggest thing that I also learned was I think I just like more of like the small touristy towns. I think they're very quaint and cute, and like the interactions I've had have been just a lot more straightforward and positive, and like I didn't feel anxious or like in danger at all. Even though there were some negative aspects of the trip, I really enjoyed it. I think I would do it again. I feel like this trip made me gain confidence in myself, even through the mistakes that I made. Plan for tomorrow is I'm gonna wake up early, I'm gonna go on a little hike, watch the sunrise, and then head home. Good night.
I've already explained my main mistake of the trip, but I think my only true regret was not planning for more time to just exist on the coast.
This hotel is literally right on the beach, and I haven't even been down to see the beach from this viewpoint yet, so I wanted to do that really quickly before I left. And then on a little hike or walk or something.
It's incredible to visit both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans in the same summer, and seeing the obvious similarities, but at the same time seeing that these coasts are nothing alike. The mist-filled mornings of the Oregon coast is something I would love to experience again in the future, maybe even permanently. I had my grocery store breakfast on the beach and tried to befriend some crows. I think I was mildly successful. I also spent a good portion of the little time I had left scanning the beach for sand dollars. I was so excited to bring these souvenirs back for Chase. My last location to visit was another beach a little further south at Hug Point, and I was delighted to see some elk on the drive there as well as some bunnies. The misty coastline took my breath away, as well as the ocean-carved rock formations and caves. And as a bonus, 2 literal devil-sized goats were just taking a stroll along the beach, which was an unexpected and hilarious find. Then, far too soon, my trip was over. I traveled back to the airport to take me back to the Rockies. I came home knowing I could do hard things by myself, but the next adventure reminded me that some of the best memories are made when you don't go at it alone. I'll see you there.